Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm gonna go through and do my April through June TBR. I'll show you the books that I have on my TBR that I've already picked. But if you watch like my 2026 TBR, you would have seen those already. So those are kind of just a repeat. And then I also picked out 6 other books that I want to hopefully get to within the next couple of months. I already picked out the rest of April. And then the other 6 that I picked out are just some that I want to get to in like May and June if I can. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and get started with my April TBR. So the first book that I have for April is Hellbent by Leigh Bardugo. This is the second book in the Alex Stern series. And I can't say too much about it because it'll kind of spoil everything else, but I am currently on page 331 of this book, so I'm almost done with it, as you can see. But yeah, that's the first book for April. And then the second book I have in April that I wanted to read, well, that I picked out to read was You Deserve Good Gelato by Casey Rose. And this one's just a memoir about basically like traveling by yourself and like doing the hard things by yourself. So that one's next in April. And then I went through and I used my like wheel of books that I have to pick out the next 2 books for April, and I got Survive the Night by Riley Sager. And this one will be my 3rd Riley Sager book that I'm reading, so I'm very excited to get into this one. I actually don't quite know what this one's about, but yeah, excited for that one. And then the last one that it picked out for me was Mary, An Awakening of Terror by Nat Cassidy, which this is one of those books that I just recently picked up not that long ago. But I've heard really good things about this, and I'm excited to get into this one as well. And then for May, I have Deep End by Ali Hazelwood, which is the one that I've already picked out. This one is her swimmer-diver romance. Yeah, this one's a sports romance, but it's between a swimmer and a diver. And I think I've said it before, but I'm very excited to get into this one. I know it is super spicy, which I'm not too excited about, but I will see how I like it. But yeah, I'm excited for that one. And then I have My Best Friend's Exorcism by Grady Hendrix. This one is about a group of high school friends, and I guess one of their friends gets possessed, and then they kind of have to go through and figure it out and figure out how to unpossess their friend. But I've only read, what did I read by him? I read The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires by Grady Hendrix already, and I did really enjoy his writing in that book, so I'm excited to jump into another book of his and see how I like it. And then for June, the 2 that I had picked out already was The Naturals by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I've heard very good things about this. It is a YA. However, I do like Criminal Minds, and I've heard that this is very reminiscent of Criminal Minds. And so I'm excited to get into this one and see how much it reminds me of it. And then the other one I have is My Policeman by Bethany Roberts. This is another one of those books that I picked up within the last few months. I know nothing about this. I've seen good things about it, so I'm excited to read it. And then the 6 books that I have that I want to maybe get to or choose from to get to for May and June are I Have Just Friends by Haley Pham. This one's a second chance romance. I've heard good things about it, so I'm excited to get into it and read this one and see what it's about. And then I have Abby Jimenez's Say You'll Remember Me. I'm not 100% sure what this one is about. I just know that these 2 people go on a date and then they kind of go their separate ways, but then they end up coming back together. So I'm excited to read that. And this one will be my second Abby Jimenez book that I will read. And then I have Funny Story by Emily Henry. This is her most recent release before The Great Big Beautiful Life, I want to say. I think this one came out in like 2024. But I have read, yeah, this one came out in 2024. I have read Happy Place by her, Beach Read, and People We Meet on Vacation. Happy Place and Beach Read were very high rated for me. People We Meet on Vacation was kind of on the lower end, so I'm excited to see how I'm going to rate this and if maybe it might be another 5-star for the year. And then I have None Shall Sleep by Ellie Marney. This one is another one that's very Criminal Minds like, so very similar to The Naturals, but not really. I think this one's only about one person in the FBI, like doing like the what would be considered the BAU. It's only one person, whereas like The Naturals follows a group of people. So yeah, I'm very excited to get into that one as well. And then I have We Fell Apart by E. Lockhart. This is the third book in the We Were Liars, Family of Liars trilogy series. I'm not 100% sure if it's a trilogy or a series, but this is the third book following that same family. So I'm excited to get into this one and see what it's about. And then last that I have on my list of potential reads for May and June, I have Thunderhead by Neil Shusterman. This is the second book in the Arc of a Scythe series. I read Scythe, which is the first book, in December, and I gave it a 5 stars. I absolutely loved it, and I can't wait to get into the rest of the series. I do have the rest of the series up there. And Thunderhead is the second book, so I can't really say, again, much about it, just because it will spoil the rest of the series. And then I have 2 books that I want to reread / read for the first time in a long time, and those are The Hunger Games and Catching Fire by Suzanne Collins. So I read The Hunger Games originally when the movies were coming out when I was in middle school, so like 2012, 2013, 2014, that time. I originally read them then, and I did love them then. I really loved them. They were like one of my favorite books when I read them. So I wanted to go back this year and read, starting from The Hunger Games all the way through Sunrise on the Reaping. I wanted to do a reread of The Hunger Games before the new movie comes out. So I'm starting with The Hunger Games, which hopefully I will be finishing by the end of this month. I did start rereading it, and so far it's just as good as I remember it. And then Catching Fire would be my reread for like May and June. I would put it with May and June. And then this is the second book in the Hunger Games series, so can't say much about it. I do vaguely remember what they're about and what goes on in them, but I am excited to finish these and see how I feel about them. Those were all of the books on my TBR for April through June of this year. So I hope you enjoyed, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.